Hey everybody, this is Scott, and I'm gonna do this video on give some fuel help for any of you guys who might be newer to leasing to own or driving for JCT or whatever your case might be. This is gonna be put on my YouTube, so I'm kind of tailoring this around the general driving population that might be interested in learning more about leasing to own or driving as an owner-op and planning your own fuel, but you might be seeing this in the We Are JCT group as well. So just bear in mind here. Anyway, if you're new to the company and you don't really know your way around too much with ways that you can fuel plan, this is designed to help you here. Okay, I'm gonna take you to the EFS app and show you how I use it myself, and give you at least some ideas on how you can take advantage of it as well. All right, so when you get in the UFS app, this is the page you get to when you first log in, of course. Now, as you see, you can see what my recent activity is in this case, but the important thing is, how is this useful to you? All right, well, if you come up here to where this button is here, well, just tap that, and it'll take you to this page right here. Or bring up this menu here. When you get to this menu, you hit this price locator. Just hit the price locator button, and it'll take you to this map view right here. It just shows you everything that's in the area. Basically, anything that's green is the cheapest prices that are in the general vicinity of where you are now. But let's say you want to know what the fuel costs are at all the different places along your route, and that's what we're trying to do here. So next thing we're going to do is come up to this button right here and tap it, and it'll bring up our route search. Okay, it'll automatically put in your current location. In my case, I was over in Grand Island picking up a JBS load at the time. Now I come down here, and I usually personally put in the state first. Just select the radio option for it, for whatever state applies. Now, my load is going to Modesto, California. So I'll pick California, and then I'll come over here and type in Modesto. Now, normally, of course, I'll have the on-screen keyboard if I'm on my actual phone. And over on the bottom right, you'll see a next button. Just hit next, and then the postal code will automatically update to whatever you have in there, if it's a valid place. After you do that, hit Find Locations, and this will populate. It will take a little bit of time. The longer your route is, the longer it's going to take for this thing to populate with all the fuel stops that are along your route. So a route like this one that was only about maybe a little over 1,500 miles loaded. Not quite too bad, but if you have a cross-country route, maybe it goes from Florida to California or something, it's going to take longer. So just be patient when you do this, okay? You will eventually see it kind of working its way. It'll first show the ones that are near you, and then it'll progressively get further and further and further until it gets to the receiver. And then once that actually is done, then the pop-up window that's working will disappear, and you'll just see this map. All right, now this is pretty cluttered right here. There's a lot to look at, and it's not easy to sort out where the ideal places are to stop if you're looking for cheaper fuel. So I'm going to show you how to find the cheapest fuel routes very easily on this. Okay, so next we're going to just come up right here where this button is here, that list button, and hit that, and that'll give us a list view, and it sorts automatically by cheapest to most expensive. Now take note of it has everything here: what the actual price is, how far away the location is from your current location, what the name of the place is, what highway or exit, whatever it happens to be. So in this case, the cheapest fuel that was on my list was this J Brothers off I-80 exit 248 in Overton, Nebraska. So that would be an ideal place to get fuel, as long as they have a good enough reputation with their fuel quality. We do have places at JCT that they don't want us going to because of known problems with those particular places. But yeah, it takes getting experience with what places have tendencies to have problems, or talking to other drivers really to figure out who has problems with what places, or who doesn't have problems with them, whatever. You're gonna get varied results, but point is here, so like in my case, when I picked up my load, I only had about 3/8 of my fuel quantity, because they even said on my load instructions, don't fuel up before getting there, because I needed to expect a heavy load. So I basically just bought just enough fuel when I left North Platte, which is where I emptied the previous day, and just got like 50 gallons, just enough to get shower credit ultimately, and to make sure I could get to Grand Island. And from Grand Island, now I'm figuring out, all right, where am I going to stop? So this J Brothers is the one I want to look at most. Now, as a JCT driver and having that EFS and the contract with Pilot and Flying J, I do want to compare the Pilot and Flying J prices to these. So what I'll usually do here is go down this list, scroll down, and just find out find the first Pilot or Flying J I can find that's in that list, and then find out what its price is, and compare it. Now, normally if I'm within about 20 cents of the cheapest price, so let's just say we'll just say J Brothers is actually $2.80 a gallon, rounding up. If my cheapest Pilot or Flying J that I can also reach on what fuel I have is at $3 a gallon or less, I'm going to go to the Pilot or Flying J more than likely, because one, I'll get the 15-cent per mile rebate, and on top of that, I also get rewards points when I use my fuel, my Pilot app or rewards card. Even I get double the points when I use the app to buy my fuel as well. So what I just did today, just even that 50 gallons of fuel plus I topped off my def and bought I forget how many gallons of reefer fuel. I ended up getting about $5 worth of Pilot rewards points out of it, and that was only a 50-gallon purchase. So it pays to actually get those rewards points too. Just because the Pilot's like 16 cents more per gallon than the cheapest place doesn't mean that you're necessarily saving any money, even if it's a penny. If you buy 100 gallons of fuel at only a penny savings, then it's only $1 that the difference what you're paying. But again, the rewards points need to be factored in too, because I can use those rewards points and purchase bigger dollar items, like maybe another dash cam, or some of you guys might be interested in using rewards points for a GPS or something, and those things aren't cheap, or anything else along that line. So those are useful dollars to me. So again, I go about 20 cents more. If I have to pay more than 20 cents more a gallon for the nearest Pilot or Flying J, I'll usually just go ahead and go to the cheapest or the cheaper place that's on here. There are some caveats here on this list too. Sometimes you're going to come up with some hits that are maybe a little bit further off the route than you really want to be doing. A good example was my previous load I picked up in Auburndale, Florida, and took it to North Platte. Well, I needed to get fuel before I could get out of Florida, and I was looking for places as close to Georgia as I could. I was trying to get into Georgia before actually having to buy fuel, but I just wasn't going to make it. So I had to look on here to see what options were available that were reasonably priced, and some of these hits were maybe a couple miles off the highway. Now, it's sometimes worth it to go ahead and do that and get off the road a few extra miles. But in that particular case, it was just one of those cases I was just in go mode. I want to hit a place that's right along my route, right off of the exit, right off an exit to that's already on my route. I don't want to have to go more than a a couple miles away or whatever, or maybe even more than a mile away. But that was just how I was feeling that one particular occasion. But sometimes you might find it actually is worthwhile to go ahead and go a couple miles off course to get to that place and get your fuel, and then come back over to your, get back on course from there. So that's one of the caveats there. Also, I was going to show you the trip planner feature on the My Pilot app, because I used to use it all the time. It was a great feature because I could just tell her what city and state I needed to go to, and it worked very much the same way as this, but was exclusively Pilot and Flying J locations that would show up. As they did a recent update to their app, though, and I'm not really the most impressed with the way the trip planner on it works now. It's not bad, but it looks within a 50-mile radius of my route, and I'm getting, like when I was looking at this route right here, I'm in Laramie right now and still going to Modesto. I just went ahead and looked it up, and I was getting a lot of hits. Like locations like in Lyman, Colorado, somewhere else down on I-70 somewhere. I was also getting hits up in South Dakota on I-90, or I think down off of I-25, and some other weird stuff. It's like, I'm getting hits that are more than 50 miles away, even though I had the thing set up to only look within a 50-mile radius. And honestly, I don't want to look in a 50-mile radius. I want to look within maybe a 5-mile radius at most. So that's something I'd like to see them change about that app. Like I say, it was working really well before, but when they just recently updated the app, or at least it did on my phone, I'm not really happy with the way it's working right now. So as it is now, I'm more apt to use this list right here again, and just find the first Pilot or Flying J that's in there. Now, another caveat there with these Pilot Flying Js, there are sometimes locations that are not actually labeled as Pilot or Flying J, but are actually part of the Pilot and Flying J system. Like that last load when I was coming toward North Platte, I ended up stopping at, I can't remember the name of the little truck stop. It's right across the street from a TA west of St. Louis. But anyway, it's not badged as a Pilot or Flying J location. However, it is actually a Pilot Flying J affiliate. And yes, you do get your Pilot Flying J rewards there, and yes, you do get the rebate there. So I went ahead and filled up there, and so that's one of those things. It didn't show up in here as a Pilot or Flying J. It showed up as I'll have to look it up again to remember. It's not really important right now, but that's one of the other things, though, is just be aware that sometimes they do have affiliate companies who will show up in here that you're not necessarily thinking to look at. So, all right, that's all I have on this part. I do want to show you one other little thing with fuel planning. Try to limit how much fuel you buy on each trip. And I'm going to go to my spreadsheet and show you what I do. So, on this particular trip, now I have this right here. Now this automatically figures out how many gallons I need to limit myself to. I'm not so concerned with how much I'm paying for gallon here. I'm actually concerned about how many gallons I'm actually buying now. So in this particular case, this route basically I deadheaded from North Platte to Grand Island, and then now I'm going loaded from Grand Island to Modesto. Total distance is actually about 1,665 miles. I'm going to hit enter, and now it's going to tell me 255 gallons of fuel is what I need to plan for on this route. Now, how does it come to 255? Well, I basically just take this distance and divide it by 6.5. Now, I'm in a 2016 Pete with a 10-speed manual, so I don't normally get more than maybe about 7 miles per gallon in this truck. But I do want to plan on having a little extra just in case, because There are sections that might have of my trip where maybe I'm going up a lot of hills and with a heavy load that are going to cause me to burn more fuel than I might on a different, on maybe going the same as taking a lighter load the opposite direction on the same route. So there are a lot of variables in there. So if I account for an extra half mile per gallon difference, and basically I assume that I'm going to need an extra half mile per gallon, then then I shouldn't have any problems with running out of fuel on that trip if I only limit myself. Now, the reason I do this is because I don't normally want to spend, let's just say, okay, now at JCT, our settlement periods end on a Thursday night. Now, if I have a load that delivers on a Thursday, then I only want to buy enough fuel to get me to my receiver. I don't want to have maybe I can actually get to a receiver nearly empty, whatever, but now I don't want to end up spending buying 150 gallons of fuel that I don't actually need to get to that receiver, especially if it's on a Thursday or if I know it's going to be the last delivery of that particular settlement period. The reason why is because if I buy 150 gallons of fuel and we'll just say it's $3 per gallon, that's $450 that's going to cost me. That $450 is going to come out of this next that same settlement, even though I didn't actually use that fuel. So what I'm going to do is cause myself to have a paycheck that's $450 less on the upcoming check, in return for having technically a $450 larger check the following week. So this is where budgeting can really come into play with your fuel and knowing how to manage your fuel costs. All right, so you don't want to buy really any more fuel to get to your receiver than is absolutely necessary. Okay, so now in this case here, I can also add in, I bought 50 gallons in North Platte just to get to Grand Island, and then when I got to that fuel stop in over a little bit east of Lexington, Nebraska, I forget the name of the place already, I bought 120 gallons. Okay, I haven't bought any other fuel yet, so I'm going to get rid of these. So now what this is telling me is that, because I've already bought 170 gallons, so now I should only need about 85 more gallons to get to Modesto. As you see, I got 1,108 miles to go, because I already updated this when I shut down here. And yeah, and I'm not going to get into that whole part of this right now, because I'm concerned mainly with the fuel planning part. But this is a handy tool you can use, that I built up myself to help you with your trip planning as well. But anyway, yeah, somewhere between here and Modesto, I'm going to end up wanting to buy 85 more gallons and nothing more. Now, there is another X factor in here, and it's California. California has probably the most expensive fuel in the entire country, so I don't want to buy fuel in California normally. But I also have to make decisions. Am I willing to pay an extra, maybe even $30 to $40 in fuel on a single fill up than I would normally have to pay in order to have a more balanced set of settlements or paychecks? Or would I rather go ahead and max out my tanks in Fernley, even though I don't need that much fuel, and I have enough to get to Modesto, probably go pick up my next pickup, which is more than likely going to be in, it could be either in Tracy or it could be in Lemoore or Tulare more than likely, but those are the most common places we do pickups at when we're in that area. But I'll just assume that maybe I'm going to pick up in Lemoore or Tulare and then take it back out, basically go back out across I-40 from there. Now, a full tank from Fernley, I actually can get out of California via I-40 and still usually have about half my fuel capacity left. I'm not one of those guys who does 65, 70 in California. The limit's 55. I tend to stay around 55. I don't have a need to drive that fast in there and take stupid risks of getting tickets. I usually have plenty of time on the load. I usually don't have any problems getting to where I need to get to or plan to get to, whatever. So it's and it's relaxing sometimes, just not having to always people on my way or whatever. So that's one of the other, I would say, catch-22s with when you're buying fuel and paying for your own fuel. Let's try to get your fuel right before you get into California so you don't have to buy any in California. But now, on the other hand, there are some places in California that are really not that much more expensive than you would expect. So, like on this particular route, most of the Pilot and Flying J's are like in the 305 to I don't know, maybe 320 or so range per gallon. Well, there are actually a number of smaller truck stops down in the Central Valley. I would say in between Bakersfield and Fresno-ish, in that general ballpark. There's actually a handful of truck stops over there that actually do have cheaper fuel that are more comparable to what you can get in Nevada or Arizona or something. So it's not always that bad if you know where to stop. So like in this case, I'll just go ahead and get my 85 gallons wherever it ends up being and have enough to get me to Modesto and not really worry too much. If I have to buy fuel in California, not a big deal. I mean, I can still manage. I mean, if I have to, just buy just enough fuel in California to get me back out, and then buy again once I'm out of California. All right, so that's all I have in a nutshell. Let's make sure this is actually on the right view. Yeah, it is. Okay. I hope you got some good information in here, and let me know what you think. Thanks.